What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Smooth Podcast, simply motivating others onward through hope. Here, across from me, that's right, we got a new setup here. Walter King. Walter King, what's going on, man?
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm so happy we got to do this, and the Smooth Podcast, motivating others onward through hope. This whole podcast series was made for people that are taking some bumps, some lumps on their way to success, to kind of like help them get motivated and help them move forward. And I've taken my share amount of lumps doing this podcast behind the scenes. So, you know, it means a lot that we were able to come back and do this again. I appreciate you for being so cordial and being like, oh, yeah, I'm right back away. And I appreciate that.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So, Walter, your story starts in South Providence, correct?
My story does start in South Providence. Yep.
And how was it growing up for you?
Growing up for me was, I guess I would say it was good. We grew up in a poor neighborhood. We were poor, but we grew up in a poor neighborhood, so you really don't equate being poor if you grow up that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I consider myself very fortunate. I grew up in a time when we all played outside and we played manhunt and we had legitimate childhoods, which has kind of dwindled away.
It's crazy. Those days are over.
I think those days are over. I consider myself to be very fortunate because I know what it's like to. Cell phones don't even exist.
Right.
Like how old are you?
I'm 34.
So you've had a cell phone your whole life.
Nope.
No.
So they got introduced when I was in middle school.
Okay.
Yep.
But even then, you had them very young.
Yep.
So I remember being a straight up adult with no cell phone.
With no cell phone.
I
Yeah,
went
that's
going
crazy.
to work. I had had a beeper.
Yeah.
So no internet, no cell phone, and it was such a simple, happier time. Everybody was in the streets. Everybody knew everybody. Yeah, it was. I consider myself to be very fortunate, especially growing up where I grew up. It was a rough neighborhood, and there was a lot going on, but there was also a lot of love. There was a lot of camaraderie. Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing about it. Yeah.
And what happened as you were having your upbringing? Did you always have a real estate mindset, or what were some of the things that you were doing or envisioned you doing as a career?
So I guess you can say I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So I learned at a very young age how to steal cars, and I became a car thief. I would say a little shy of a professional car thief. Stole a lot of cars. Got arrested a lot of times. Went to training school when I was 16 years old. Came out, went back a day later. Spent from 16 to
Day later?
So I went into Ocean Tides, and then I went on a weekend pass. And me being
Gotcha.
I wanted to put some money in my pocket, so I went and stole a car, and got arrested that night. And then I went back to training school, and I did another year. And then I came home when I think I was a little under 18 years old, and that was it. I was an adult at that point.
Mm. And as an adult, trying to find your way, what happened then?
So while I was a juvenile, I grew up in a high drug environment, and what a lot of people don't understand, when you grow up around that, it doesn't seem illegal to you. Right, you don't really realize what you're doing or what's happening is illegal. Your neighbors are selling drugs. Your neighbors are on drugs. It's kind of everywhere in the neighborhood. So I was introduced to drugs at a very young age, narcotics at a very young age, and I always dabbled with that as a kid, from maybe the age of 13, 12, 13, something like that. So it was a mix of stealing cars or selling drugs. What people don't understand about selling drugs is, you don't have to, it's not like a typical job where you have to be 16 years old, right? You could do it at 10 years old.
Yep.
Right? And it's easy. When you're a kid, it's so easy because you fly under the radar. You know everybody. You get along with everybody. All the drama and the violence, it misses you when you're a kid, right? And when you're a kid, it's just, you sell it and move on. You don't deal with none of the bullshit. If somebody burns you, you just walk it off. It's whatever. So it was very easy at a young age. And to make $50 when I'm 14 years old, 12 years old, $75, $100, go buy a hat and a sweater and go to school, that was a big deal back then. You know, we're talking about in the 80s. So, but I've always had an entrepreneur mindset. I never saw myself working for anybody. I did have a few jobs very far and in between, but I don't think I've ever worked more than a year for somebody.
Wow.
Yeah.
And outside of drug dealing and things of that sort. What was your first legal entrepreneur kind of?
So my first legal entrepreneur venture was a rim store on Cranston Street in Providence. It used to be called East Coast Auto Accessories.
Okay.
And I took some money that I had saved up from the streets, and I think I'm like 19 or 20 years old, and I bought a rim shop from a friend of mine, and they started selling rims. And it was, believe it or not, it was very lucrative.
I believe it because I remember as a kid just like going through whether it be like the Source or XXL, and they had pages for just the rims. It was like that was a big thing back then.
So this was before internet. So you would come to my shop and you would pick rims out of a catalog. And then I would call up the company and they would send me the rims with the lugs to fit the car. And I don't remember the markup, but it was insane. It was a lot. I mean, thousands. If I paid $2,500 for the rims, I was selling them to you for like $6,000, and that was the suggested markup. It was crazy, and I did okay with that. I didn't have the right temperament to sit in a store all day, so I had the store, but I was still actively in the streets. And from there, I opened up a carpet cleaning company, and then I kind of matured a little bit and learned how to become run a real company and be a real business owner, and I took it serious, and I did that for a very long time, and I did well. It did really, really well. I think, mind you, now we're in the 90s, and I was making $120,000 a year, just me by myself, all alone. I'm riding out in my van. I'm cleaning rugs. I'm coming home $1,500 a day, $1,200, $1,800 a day from cleaning rugs, and it was very lucrative. It wasn't until I hired employees and I got other trucks and employees is when the business started to go downhill. It became too big for me to manage. I didn't know how to deal with managing other people, and I started to neglect the company. The customers wanted to see the owner present, so I really didn't know how to delegate, to the employees in the vans. And at that point, I think my head got too big for what I could handle, and I thought I was just going to book appointments and send people out. But probably a couple years after that, I ended up selling the business because people were doing away with rugs. They were putting laminate floors.
Sure.
And I just saw the writing on the wall. I saw that the business was going to come to an end. So let me move into something else. And I've had car dealerships, staffing agencies, nightclubs, tons of businesses.
But none of them, like outside of you being able to see a profit in them, was anything aligned in all of them?
What do you mean by aligned?
Like there was one part in all of them that is what intrigued you about them.
Selling. I'm always selling something. I'm always selling some sort of a service. I'm a salesman. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just the business aspect.
Just the business aspect. My forte is buy for $1, sell for $2. Mm-hmm. That's it. I buy houses for this much. I sell them for that much. I'm selling services. I'm paying this much for this, and I'm selling those services. And I've always been in sales, one way or another.
Yeah. So being an entrepreneur, and we kind of were talking off camera about this, what has so far been your biggest loss?
My biggest loss was the nightclub that I just spoke of. I lost $250,000. Some people will remember that. It was called Rock Bar, ROKBAR. It was in East Greenwich. Some of the older guests would remember that because that was in 2014, and I lost $250,000 in there.
Okay, so automatically I'm thinking, were you thinking about having just the clientele that's out there be part of the patrons, or did you expect Providence to come out to East Greenwich? And
not at all. Somebody pitched it to me, and I wasn't thinking anybody was coming anywhere. I just figured people will come. Out there anywhere, people will come.
Gotcha.
When it was pitched to me, it was a great idea. And then it just didn't pan. We didn't realize that East Greenwich is seasonal. So in the summertime, everybody goes to the water, not on Main Street. Main Street is dead as a doornail. And in the winter, we did really good. We were doing $15,000 a weekend. But our good weekends in the winter wasn't enough to sustain our bad weeks all summer. Because summer, Friday, Saturday, doesn't matter. Everybody is at the water. Even if it's raining, they want to be at Cello's, Blue on the Water, all them spots.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to be up on Main Street.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. And so I like to say that I saw you, it had to be at least, we're talking 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago. And whenever there would be maybe a show, whether it be a hip hop artist or a comedy, I envision you a lot in comedy shows. You would always come in with your significant other. You guys always look so fly. And I want to say, obviously it wasn't 100% you, but I liked seeing that.
Yeah.
And I liked you never seemed to be doing too much, and it was almost like you let your lady kind of like,
yeah.
How do I explain this?
I get what you're saying. I definitely.
You could tell that you were about business by how put up your lady was.
I'm a strong believer in that.
Yeah,
You should shine through your people. You should shine through your kids. Shine through your lady. You know, let them wear that.
Yeah,
and you should be a little more low key.
And even back then, I was like, that's how. Like I'm trying to be like that. Like that was fire. So I want to say you were definitely like I had no clue who you were. I had no clue what business you were in, but I was like, that's always fire to me.
Well, I tend to stand out a lot because you see me in a lot of black comedy shows, rap shows, stuff like that. And I'm a white guy, and you know I'm kind of like in there, but those are the people I grew up with.
Yeah.
You know, those are the areas I'm comfortable around.
Yeah.
I did do some promoting too. I did some promoting some rap shows and comedy shows. That was another line of business I was in also.
Gotcha.
Another terrible business I would never get involved in again.
Yeah. So I have a question. With all of the reports, whether it be Forbes or, you know, all of these financial reports claiming that Rhode Island is one of the worst states to start a business in. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that? And what do you think needs to change for that to change?
Ooh, I think Rhode Island is a really tough business. I mean, a tough state to start a business in. But I think a lot of that depends on what kind of business you're opening. We don't have a lot of production here. You know, there's a lot of things Rhode Island lacks.
Yep.
As far as factories, and you know, we don't build much here anymore like we used to. When I was a kid, we had Olneyville and the Jewelry District. We did a lot here, but now, I guess it would depend on what kind of business you're trying to open, right? Because everybody wants to open up a club or a restaurant or a clothing line, but nobody wants to open up a cleaning business or a business where they actually have to get down and work, you know, and put the work in and get dirty. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Everybody wants to do podcasts and, you know, stuff that's glamorous.
Yep.
You know, but you know, the kid with the mobile car detailing business, he's doing well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's putting in the work. He's doing good. He's on his second van, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, 100%.
People have no clue how hard it is to build. Instagram and social media can we swear?
Go ahead.
No, Instagram and social media has it all screwed up.
Yeah.
They think it's a fast track to the top. It's not. It takes years. I'm 48 years old. That's old. For you to sit here and say, I'm supposed to be successful at this age. I'm not. I didn't cheat no lines. You know, it took me forever to get here. It takes a long time to get
You
it right.
say that, but the average American, those stats are pretty staggering in the opposite direction.
They are. I think the average American, 70% of all Americans have less than $1,000 in the bank, which is scary, especially if you're a single mother or you're someone with kids to have less than $1,000 in the bank. But for the amount of time that I work and, you know, what the investments and what I've put in, you know, I work a lot. You know, I take a lot of chances.
Yeah. Recently, I'm really kind of like unwrapping this theory, though, of working hard and why I don't think people should hang their hat on that metric anymore, because I think it's all about directional, like working hard directionally,
of course,
right?
Absolutely.
Because like if I work hard at something that my potential of earning money is only this much,
sure.
I can work as many hours as I want. I'm not going to get paid like that.
Absolutely. No, you gotta go in the right direction. The worst thing you can do is drive down the street and realize you went down a dead end and now you got to turn around. So imagine doing that in life.
Right.
2-3 years into a business and you realize, man, I've been doing this wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
Fuck, I got to start over. Let me tear it down and redo it.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Yeah.
But that's the case, and that's the situation in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
You know, you realize I'm doing something wrong, and you shut it down and regroup.
Right. Right.
My opinion, one of the biggest problems is we cannot take constructive criticism these days. We're too emotionally invested in our brand or our business. When somebody says anything negative, we automatically process it and we respond with negativity, and we call them haters or they don't want to see me win. But you should listen to what people are saying, whether they are hating. Let it register.
Yeah. So I love having the thought process and like kind of like the feedback of, you know, say if such and such gives me advice, I should be able to ask them, okay, if I take your advice, will I end up like you? Now, if that sounds good, like, yeah, you should want to end up like me, then that's who I should be taking advice from. Mm-hmm. If that sounds like I'm throwing a dig at you, then I probably shouldn't be taking advice from you in that aspect.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Repeat that.
So let's say if you were like, oh, Ray, your real estate portfolio, I think you should do X, Y, and Z, right? Mm-hmm. I should be able to say, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, will I end up like you? That should sound like a compliment, not a dig. Oh, and absolutely. It would, right?
Yeah.
Now, say if, we'll say if someone else, was down on their luck when it came to real estate or whatever the case, and they're telling me what to do with real estate, and I say, hey, if I take your advice, will I end up like you? And it sounds like a dig, then that means I shouldn't take advice from you.
If you're asking me, I'm going to think you should end up better than me because I didn't have me to ask those questions. Mm-hmm. I didn't have me to guide me. Right. When I started real estate, I had nobody. I had one guy who I used to kind of call and he would guide me through it. But I really had to figure things out on my own.
Yeah.
But I also started in real estate when social media wasn't as prevalent as it is now. I don't know if that's a bad or a good thing for because there's a lot of bullshit out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people making it look easier than it is.
Yeah.
But I didn't have anybody that I could call and ask, or I didn't have a chat GBT or a TikTok.
So when did you start in real estate?
So I started in real estate a little over 10 years ago. My first property was a 2-family house in Woonsocket. I bought the house for $55,000.
Now, did Woonsocket have like an eerie, red tape, don't go there?
It does. Woonsocket is probably one of the shittiest places you want to own real estate in Rhode Island. Right, even right now. And it's not a dig at Woonsocket. It's from an investor standpoint because it doesn't perform good as far as rent. There are really, really nice neighborhoods in Woonsocket.
Yes, there are.
So the house that I owned was a nice neighborhood. But Woonsocket does have a negative perspective. When it comes to real estate investing, somebody will say, hey, I got a house for you. Where's it at? Woonsocket. Oh, man, come on, man. I'll call you back. It's just a lot of people, they don't even want to hear you out after that. Me, I will. I'll listen to you. But Woonsocket is a tough city because of the building inspectors are tough. It's very densely populated. Apartments are on top of each other. 10, 15 unit buildings right next to each other. Parking is scarce. So all that diminishes the quality of living.
And it's away from Prov.
It's away from Providence. It's far away from everything. There's no malls. There's no shopping. There's not much going on out there. So a lot of people just don't want to have a negative outlook on Woonsocket. Mm-hmm. But the first property I bought was a 2-family home. I paid $55,000 for it. Now, a lot of people are going to say, damn, that was a great deal. Yeah, at the time, that was market value for that house. Right? That house was the equivalent of a 2-family now paying $500,000 because the very same thing that I did with that $55,000 house, you can do with a $500,000 house today. I paid $55,000 for the house. I rented it. I got $2,000. I got $1,000 for the first and $1,000 for the second floor. So I rented it for 10 years and I got $1,000 a month. It brought in $2,000 each month, each one floor. I kept it for 10 years. I just sold it. I sold it for $500,000. So to avoid paying taxes on that $500,000, because I would have had to pay $90,000 in taxes. So to avoid taxes, I bought a single family in Providence and I bought a duplex. And those two properties are now valued at a little over $1 million. So I took $55,000 and I turned it into $1 million. And I avoid paying taxes at all costs on it. And I did that via 1031 exchange.
Yes.
I'm a big advocate for 1031 exchange. I think that is the absolute way to wealth. When you're paying $150,000 a year in taxes, I try to 1031 exchange everything I can. So right now I'm on my third 1031 exchange. I'm looking to sell 2 houses. I have 2 houses there worth around 1.5 million. And I'm going to basically liquidate 4 tenants and I'm going to buy 1 building, maybe like a Walgreens or a CVS. I want to buy a triple net lease, 30-year lease.
So for you, it's like you don't want any money that's just in your bank account. You want it all just being cash flow with bigger properties.
So the objective there is I'm going to get rid of 4 tenants. And I'm going to liquidate them down to 1 tenant. And I want what we call mailbox money. I want to go to the mailbox and collect my money. I don't want to deal. You're a landlord. Mm-hmm. I don't want to deal with tenants.
Right.
And I don't want to deal with the devaluing of the property. When you sign a triple net lease to like a McDonald's or a CVS, they pay the taxes, the water, the sewer, the maintenance on the building. All you collect is your rent every month. Mind you, you're going to get a little less than you would get. It's going to perform probably not as good as those rental properties, but there's less headaches, right? And there's no taxes, no insurance. You carry your own policy, but they carry the primary policy, and it's
Way less headaches.
Way less. It's the true term of passive income,
Right.
Which is what the depiction of real estate is. People say real estate's passive income. You own rental property. Some people would say that that's passive income. You know better than that. It's not. No. Sometimes it's just a job to collect the money. So that's what I'm doing. I'm looking for the true passive income.
Yeah. And so, how many units do you own?
I think 70, right around 70, high 60 or low 70. I haven't counted in a while. I added a few. I took a few away.
Yeah, I haven't counted mine either in a while. You know what I mean? Like, who's counting here?
So believe it or not, I have very little mortgages, but I make very little money off rental property. Very little. I buy rental property for leverage. That's kind of my niche. So I have a tactics that I haven't seen anybody do. I kind of fell into this little groove of real estate, and it has allowed me to just grow and grow and grow. So what I'll do is I'll buy 1 or 2 properties, or as many as I can buy, and then I will put them into what's called the portfolio line of credit. And then I'll go to a bank, Coastal One or a Navigant, and let's say those 3 properties are worth $1 million. They'll give me a $700,000 line of credit. And I'll have access to that money whenever I need, and I'll use that money to do short-term investments, whether it's building or buying auctions or flipping or lending money. And I just do short-term investments, and it allows me to constantly be liquid, have plenty of capital, access to plenty of capital to do whatever deal comes my way. And I'm also in a position where I'm ready for the pivot. If the market hits, I'm on top of it. I'm going to move.
And as we talk about the market, I am seeing it change as we speak right here.
Florida is taking a hit. Texas is taking a hit. The bigger cities are starting to feel it. I think New York is feeling it a little bit. So it's going to happen in Rhode Island. It's coming. If you don't think it is, I've already seen single families are stagnant right now in Rhode Island. I mean, not crazy stagnant, but they're not selling like stagnant. It was 6 months ago. Yeah, they're sitting. Right now, we have more buyers than we have more houses than buyers. So until they drop the interest rate, which I don't think they're gonna, I think it's gonna level out.
Have you ever sold a property and just kept the money, and you were like, you know what, I'll pay the price, but I want to keep the liquid?
Oh yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
And what was the biggest amount that you've taken?
$1 million. Yeah, so I bought a property on Marietta Street in Providence, and it was a 12-unit building, and then I built a 3-family house next door to it. So it ended up being 15 apartments, and oh man, I think I paid I don't know, $500,000 for the 2 6-unit buildings. And then I built a 3-family house, and at the time I built that for like under $300. So I was like $700, and I sold it for $1.9. And I just put that in my back pocket. I paid for that. I wrote a check. I don't know, a month ago.
Because in my head, I'm thinking, cool, the tax exchange, like cool. But you can only really do that if you're like super solid liquid. Like, I get what you're saying with all like the credit and stuff like that. But if you were down to like $10,000 liquid, you would probably just keep it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you need the money, you're gonna pay this. You're gonna take the tax hit and cash out and put that money in your pocket if you need the money. But see, going back to what I said, you need money. You can take that 1031 exchange money. You can buy this property over here, and then you can leverage this property for the money that you need. Now, that process is going to take a few months, but like 2-3 months. But I mean, if you need money today, you can borrow money from a lender, and it's going to cost you a few extra dollars. You want to borrow $200K, it's going to cost you $4,000 and $2,000 a month while you're waiting for that credit line to kick in. And now you have your 1031 exchange. You avoided those capital gains, because when you're talking about, if we're talking about $15,000 in taxes or $90,000, $150,000.
Huge difference there.
Huge difference. Yeah. So on that property on Marietta Street, I paid $150,000 in taxes. I just paid that like a month ago, because that was for 2023. I just did my 23 taxes, and just that one property alone was $150K in taxes, and that was just one out of all the deals I've done. But I was in the position what you just said. I wanted that money to lend, because I I look at it as lending money. To me, lending money is way better than owning rental property. Way better. There's no headaches. There's no phone calls. If they don't pay, you just foreclose. Right? You eliminate all that personal relationship you have with tenants.
Yeah.
It's just way different. And you get a better return. You're getting 12% return.
Now, have you had tenants that you had a personal relationship with before they became your tenant?
Oh, way too many times.
Okay.
Way too many times.
Has there ever been a situation where they hadn't paid rent and you had to evict?
They didn't pay rent and I evicted?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, all the time.
And walk me through it. Just like how, like emotionally, how does that go?
So I will let's say you're a friend of mine and I give you an apartment. I will let you get over on me so much that you can't even be mad when I evict you. Right? You owe me 4 months rent. Right? You owe me $2,000. You owe me $8,000 in back rent, and I got to do it, bro. I'm sorry. What do you expect? You can't even be mad at me at this point. But I let it go for so long. That's kind of my way of still saving face and evicting somebody who I have a relationship with.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I know we talked previously, but you don't have property management?
No, I am property management. Yeah.
And it's your daughter that also operates with the business.
That's right. My daughter works full time for me. My son works for me now too. But I can't see paying a property management company 8%, and every time there's a problem they send a plumber, they're paying the plumber. I just can't see it. I'm not saying that property management companies are scams, but I want to be more hands-on with my properties. If something's leaking, I want to know what's leaking. I want to call the plumber. I want to,
But outside of like the flips that you have going on, outside of the developments you got going on, like you're cool with getting 30 texts from tenants about stuff?
My phone rings on an average of between 100 and 150 times a day, and I'm learning to manage it. It's tough, but I'm learning to manage it. So a lot of times the tenants will text my daughter. My daughter will tell me, hey, dishwasher's not working. I have a plumber. I'll call my plumber. Hey, Mario, can you go over there, look at this dishwasher? Problem solved in a matter of 10 seconds with a few text messages. So, and I know Mario and I trust Mario, and he's not going to go soak me. Property management company, I don't know. They're going to send the most expensive workman's comp, all the insurance, plumber, vans, letters. Listen, a plumber shows up in a van with letters, that costs you money. Yeah. You're paying for that. Yeah. All that professionalism, you're paying for that.
So landlords like myself that kind of don't know our left from our right when it comes to what things actually cost and what contractors should actually get paid for labor, how do you gauge it?
I just have the experience. Like, I'll give you an example. Structural damage on a house, right? That sounds bad to you, right? Structural damage. Yep. Structural damage is probably one of the cheapest things to fix in a house. It's all labor. And the materials are like a few $100. So your house could be leaning, and a contractor come in and tell you, hey, man, you're in bad shape, man. We're going to have to charge you $50,000. And I could probably get it fixed for $1,500.
It's funny because we had a conversation, and that's why you brought it up. We had a conversation about one of my houses, and it was when we actually went through with it, it was $3,500.
$35, and you were so concerned, and you thought it was going to be $50,000, $30,000. But it sounds so much worse than this. Yeah. And to a homeowner,
and to a prospective buyer, it sounded too, because they were out. You know what I mean? Yeah, so both ways.
I mean, that's something when you're looking to buy a house. That's something you don't want to hear. Structural damage. That sounds bad. Yeah. But structural damage can be the extent of a few.
But that's where you win. That's where you win, because you're like, oh, I'll pick that up. Boom.
Oh yeah. So I buy houses from auctions, and we don't even go inside. We just deal with whatever comes our way, and we buy them. I spend more time looking at a pair of sneakers at the mall than I do at a house. And that's the truth. I'll buy sometimes 3-4 houses in a day. And then, all right.
So how do you not lose on them?
You will lose some, but your wins will overcome your losses. Okay. So when I lose, I'm only losing the deposit. Yeah. Right? At the auction, you give a deposit, $5,000 or $10,000, and then at that time, I'll have 30 days to enter the property or talk to the people or figure out, do I want to move forward with this purchase? Do I want to put this $300K up? Yeah. And if I do, then I'm certain that I'm going to make money on it. It's worth it. And if I don't, I walk away from the deposit.
Now, from the outside looking in, the auctions look like they should be their own reality show.
They should be. So I actually had a reality show approach me one time, but they said it was too depressing and it's not for TV, because in a sense, you have these people at the lowest point in their lives. Like, we've had people commit suicide. We had a guy go in there and blow his brains out on the couch. Wow. It's tough. There's kids coming off school buses. We had another time where a school bus pulled up and kids, like 14-year-old boys, came off and they're like, "What are you doing in front of my house? Get the hell!" I started fighting with the auction guys. It's very traumatic. People they're crying, neighbors. Now they're on Instagram. They got you all over Instagram, your house, your neighbor's house, your coworker. Everybody's in your business. It's extremely traumatic. I try to have a lot of empathy and sympathy for them people because so many times, I mean, in some cases, it's just people that just said, "Fuck it, I'm not paying my mortgage." Just irresponsibility.
Yeah.
Irresponsible. Yeah. And in some cases, some people are just fucked up. The husband died. The wife can't pay the bills. She's raising the 3 kids. She's trying. She just doesn't have it. That's the case in a lot of cases. People just can't make ends meet. And a lot of people have to pick, feed my kids or pay my mortgage. You know, do this or pay my mortgage. And in a lot of cases, they pick feeding the kids. And then here we are outside your house, buying your house.
Right.
So I try to work with people. I give them time to stay in the house. I've never really like went full asshole on anybody. I've never had to. I will hope that I wouldn't. I always approach them. Like I said, I approach them with a lot of empathy, and I'm considerate to their situation. And I just try to talk to people and work with them and help them relocate. If I have to give them money, whenever I'm buying a house, I factor in $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to help them relocate.
Wow.
I factor that into the sale price of the house. So cash for keys. So I can help them find another apartment and get them situated. But it can be very traumatic to people. A lot of people don't understand, but the foreclosure process in Rhode Island, in this part of the country, is very unethical. We stand in front of your house. We're bidding on your house. The kids are there. The parents are there. The neighbors are there. In a lot of states like Florida and the Carolinas, it's done online or at the courthouse. So we're not right there in your house. And these people are arguing with the homeowners, trying to get information out of them. So it can be very, very unethical, and it can be very insensitive to the people living in the house. I do believe that the process of the foreclosure process of the auction in front of the house, I think that's going to be, they're going to end that pretty soon. There's just so much going on with that.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem a little bit like back in the day, like heary town hall-esque, where it's like, I'm sure you guys could just like go online and like do it online or something.
Absolutely, yeah. So what I'll say is the powers that be, the people that make the majority of the money off it, they advocate to keep it that way. Because if it did go online, you'd have people bidding from all over the country, bidding on the houses, and this way we keep it with a little Rhode Island family. If you can't drive here, you can't come. And they like it.
Okay, that actually makes sense.
Yeah,
that does make sense.
Which, you know, I don't want to say too much, but the less people that come, you know, the less money that the homeowner gets to relocate with, because they won't bid. There's only 2 people.
Yeah, so I hear it's like a secret society too.
It is. It is 100% like a secret society. I tell people all the time. People say, "I want to start going to auctions," and I say, "If you want to start going to auctions next year, start going today. And in a year from now, you may be able to buy something." But the guys at the auctions are very aggressive about keeping newcomers out, because you're there and it's like you're selling drugs on their territory. You know, you got to kind of ease your way into that. And that's exactly, you know, the scenario. So you got to go, you got to build a camaraderie with them. You got to get to know them. They got to trust you. You trust them. And then you can start buying. I mean, you can go tomorrow and buy, but you're going to pay all the money in the world. They're going to make sure you lose.
Yeah. And so when, you know, when you talk about the intense virtue of that, when it comes to selling houses, when it comes to developing, is there some competitiveness with that as well? I
feel like there's competitiveness in everything. You know, the guy standing on Union Avenue selling flowers, he wants to sell more flowers than the guy across the street. It's just if you're not competitive, you have no business being in business. That's my personal instinct, my personal opinion.
Okay, I'm glad that you got to that point. So me being a small time real estate owner, am I viewed as competition just because I own real estate, or no, if it's not my 100% full-time job?
You would be viewed as competition if you came close to a deal that I was getting. Then you'd be viewed as competition.
Okay.
Right?
Or so it actually doesn't matter what I have. It just matters if I get in the crosshairs of what you're trying to get as well.
Me or any other developer or anybody. If I have my eye on a piece of land and I see you have your eye on a piece of land, you are now competition. You're a threat. And that doesn't mean I'm going to feel any differently about you, but I will move differently when I'm around you. 100%.
That's funny. Yeah, because I mean, in my head, like, you know, I invest in real estate, but real estate is not my 9 to 5. So I always thought like I was able to talk to people like you. I was able to talk to people like Kyle. I was able to talk with people like Zach, because I'm non-threatening, because, you know, I'm doing my little thing over here and you guys are off to races on some big stuff.
We all want to see you win until it's coming off our plate.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Kyle, me, Zach, any of us, like, we'll give you the best advice in the world. And then after that deal passes, whether you get it or I get it, we can go back to being normal again. But while we're competing for that project, you know, it's gladiator school.
Why don't the gladiators all team up and like shut everyone else down?
It's too many. It's too many people chasing the same dollar.
Okay.
It's impossible. But I mean, people partner up. I partner up with people all the time. Yeah, but we can't just get it together as a collective and say, hey, we're all developers. Let's just develop everything together. It wouldn't be conducive. It wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you tell from a kind of a long shot who's not gonna make it and who's gonna do one flip and then be out of here?
I can tell you within less than a minute of talking to you whether you have it or you don't. Maybe less than a minute.
What's the key factor?
Well, first of all, if you don't know what you're talking about, if you're over rambunctious, if you're talking too much, I've flipped so many houses that I know what needs to be fixed or what doesn't need to be fixed. And if you're telling me you're gonna fix this, but you're not gonna fix the windows, in my mind, this house needs windows bad, you already lost. And you could just tell. You can just tell when somebody doesn't have it. You can see the determination in them. You can see the drive in them. I meet some kids sometimes, some young kids, and they don't know much about houses, but I could tell by the hunger in their eyes. I'm like, these kids going. I'm gonna stay close to this kid because I can tell something's gonna happen with him.
Why not build a team?
So I have a team. I have a network. That's my team. I don't want a team because I don't want to pay a team. I've had a team before. I had 5 people working for me. You come to resent weekends because you got to come up with payroll. And you're paying thousands of dollars every weekend, and I promise you are the last one to get paid, if you even get paid.
Okay, and I'm gonna push back just a little bit. One would argue that you could expand your business if you did hire, and not only that, but your expertise and your current capital, like it would make it so that would be like kind of like an easy thing to do.
Well, let's create an analogy. I have an office. You come work at my office. We're doing wholesaling. We're doing cold calling, and you're making phone calls. And then you call up, Jane Smith, and you land her, and you're making, I don't know, $25 an hour working for me, and I made $140,000 off of her, and then I gave you like a $2,500 bonus, and I made $1.50. How long before you go out on your own and start to do your own thing?
Yeah.
Because you know how to make the phone calls, you know how to acquire the leads. All you need to do is you actually have contacts. You know where to get the money. You know where to get the buyers, the sellers. You've learned all that. So how long are you going to work for me, making me hundreds of thousands of dollars when you can just do this from your living room? And that instead of you making $25 an hour or $2,500 bonus, you can make $150,000.
Yeah, I mean, in situations like that, like I feel like if me closing and I was delivered a more advantageous payout, I feel like it would work better for everybody.
How much would you need? How much money would you need for that deal for you not to aspire to do your own thing? 40,000?
Like, I think if you're not personally doing it and you're just kind of like, hey, here's a list of numbers. If you can get one. Why not split it 50-50?
But because you're not paying for my billboards. You're not paying for my commercials, my office.
Yep, fair.
My phones.
But like a percent, like I feel like a solid percentage is like enticing.
So yeah, well that is a solid percentage if you got to look at my overhead.
No, I'm saying like a solid percent is 25-75, something like that, where it's like clean cut. You know exactly what percentage you would be getting off.
Well, that is a solid percentage. You're getting a bonus. You get a $2,500 signing bonus. That's your solid percentage. What you're saying is more of a solid percentage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're not factoring in, we haven't had a deal in 3 months. I'm paying 4 people, paying billboards, advertisements, commercials, social media, paying. All that $140,000 is going back into recouping all the money I lost for the last 3 months. But that doesn't stop you from your gears and your head spinning, saying, I just made them $140,000 and he just gave me $2,500. I do this shit myself.
Yeah. What is the best avenue for leads?
My opinion, the best avenue for leads is organic. Talking to people, door knocking, driving for dollars. Yep.
Okay, so face to face,
face to face, yeah. Right now, real estate is so exhausted with mail outs and cold calling and skip tracing. I find a piece of land, I make a phone call, and the third person call, and they hang up on me. It's like, I talked to 6 people already.
Yeah.
So there's so many people chasing, especially land in Providence. Forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, a nice chunk of money to just have on, I guess, deck would be $100,000 or more. And this is just like liquid that you don't have to spend, that you're just chilling with in your bank and you're just comfortable with. Like everything else is paid for and things of that nature. How long has it taken you to adjust for certain things to be a normalcy? So even when you said, I made, $1 million off of this one deal, how long did it take for you to kind of be just like regular with that and not be on too much of a high? Or were you,
I don't know. I don't know that it is still normal to me yet. So it's not about the money. Believe me, when you get to the point where I'm at, the money comes secondary to closing the deal. I just want to put the deal down. Sometimes I'm making $500 off a house. Sometimes I'm making $50,000, but I just want to put the deal down. But the money just goes into the bank and it just continues to circulate and grow. You don't even see it. It just becomes numbers to you at that point. You're running a business. If I sold the house tomorrow and I made $100,000, I don't go out and buy myself a pair of sneakers, a car. It doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
I have a closing coming up this week. I'm selling a house, $700,000. I might go have like 1 or 2 drinks. That's
what's the profit you're gonna make on that?
This is a new construction that I built. I'm not making 700. I'm probably gonna make 300 or like high 2s, but that'll be my net profit on that. So I'll probably go out and have dinner and get a drink, and that's the extent of it. The money's just gonna roll right back into the business and look for more deals and just keep the wheels turning. It's about growth.
Yeah. What is the end goal for you?
I don't know. I don't know where this is gonna take me. I don't know. I'm just plugging away. I don't want to do big developments. I'm afraid of doing big 15-unit buildings. I see too many people get
They look nice.
They look nice, but I'm not a fan of sinking money into a project for 4 or 5 years, hoping that the market stays stable. I'd rather do 30, 40, 50 deals in the process of somebody doing a 15-unit building.
Yeah.
Like I'm building 5 houses right now in South Providence on Public Street. And it's going to take me a total of 6 months to complete all 5 houses. I just finished the first one. It took me 4 months, start to finish. So I'd rather just keep doing those investments. I mean, if it's working for me.
Yeah. And when it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
A man of my word. Integrity. Took care of my family. Yeah.
Walter King, thanks for coming on the Smooth Podcast, man. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me, bro. Thank you.